Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to grade 4 social studies lesson, and today's lesson is coming from unit 4 that says our world today, lesson 4 that says transport and communication. We can find this lesson from page 128 to 133, activity book page 74 to page 75. We all know that every lesson has its own objectives, and the objectives of these lessons are to explain how transportation and communication influenced our economic activities. Number 2, to learn how technology has increased interdependency between our region and the world. Of the lesson. In this lesson, there are very many things said, but in short, the most important thing is the forms of transport have been changing and improving from the ancient times. The forms of transport have been changing and improving from the ancient times. Ancient times means the old past days. Number 2, each form of transportation helped to improve the economy of a place or a country. Number 2, each form of transportation helped to improve the economy of a place or a country. 3, there were different forms of communication during the ancient days. 4, the forms of communications have been changing from time to time, and this has made our communication easy. In this slide, we shall see the development of transport. On this slide, you are requested to name and describe the forms of transport below. The first one is a cart. It's called animal drawn cart. It's not cart the animal that we know, but it's a horse that behind the horse there is a cart where the person traveling was getting inside there and the horse was moving. Number 2 is a steam powered train. Steam powered train. So you can see the smoke as the train was moving. The smoke also was getting out. This is the old type of trains that I don't think now we are using this. Things are developing. That's why we are saying the development of transport. The third picture, we can see a man on a boat. A man on a boat traveling from very far places to far places only using a boat. You can see how difficult it was. The other one is a ship. It's not much different from the boat, but you can see how it's constructed. All these are ancient forms of transport. Today, we have the development of the airplane. We have the development of the airplane. We can move easily from one place to another using the airplane. The other one, the last one, is a guy on top of a horse. All these are forms of transport. All these are forms of transport. Goods. Every type of transport has contributed to the economic development of a place. Many places have changed. Many places have grown. Many towns have developed because of the forms of transport. For example, number 1, stables and inns were created along the transport routes. Stables and inns were created along the transport routes. What are stables? Stables are places where we can keep our horses, and inns are just like restaurants or hotels which can accommodate us. So these were created because of the development of transport. Number 2, the port cities were built to supply boats with supplies. The port cities were built to supply boats with supplies. And number 3, canals and waterways for rivers were also built and developed. Number 4, there was increased coal mining to fuel the steam-powered trains and ship. You remember one of the slides there, we saw a steam-powered train and a steam-powered ship. So we needed coal. We needed coal to do the fueling of these trains. Number 5, there was more trading between distant countries. There was more trading between distant countries. It was very easy for countries to trade from one place to another. Countries which are very far from each other, they traded very easily after the development of these transport and communication forms. The other one is transport of goods from factories to markets. Transport of goods from factories to markets. Long time ago, to get something from the factories to bring it to the markets, it was very hard. But with the development of transport and communication, it's now easy for people to get anything they want from the market. The other one is the leisure travel. Leisure travel. Leisure means just going somewhere for a holiday. Because the transport forms are there, we can easily travel from one place to another. So these are the economic developments of which came after transport and communications had been. In this slide, we shall see the development in communication. What is the meaning of communication? Communication means the sending and receiving of messages. The sending and receiving of messages. Picture number 1, we can see two people. They are sending and receiving messages between each other. This is called conversation in person. Picture number 2 is speaking in group. Speaking to a group. Speaking to a group. One person is standing and is talking to many people. All these are available on our textbooks. The other picture is telephone conversation. This is very common. We are using it now. We are using it nowadays also. Telephone conversation. You can send and receive messages through the telephone. The other one is called the public address. The person seems to be shouting, but he's talking to the public using that public address device. The other form of communication is television broadcast. The person broadcasting the news can be communicating to us. As you are watching the news, we are receiving the messages from him. He's sending the news to us and we receive the news from him. The last one is the email. Email is very, very common and we are using it nowadays to send messages from one place. We are now coming to see the evolution of communication over time. Evolution means changes. How were things long time ago and how are they now? Long time ago, people used to communicate using horns and smoke. You can see the picture on the right hand side. That person is sending a message to another person or to another community, but only using the blowing of the horns. This was very, very difficult. But there was a particular pattern of horns blow, that had a special meaning. You can imagine it was very, very hard for a person to blow the horn in a particular way so that the other person can understand. This type of communication had a lot of disadvantages. Under it, you can see a person using a smoke to show people a message, to send people messages. Sometimes you had to use the smoke signals. The smoke signals were also sending messages. Maybe there was something urgent, there was something that required emergency for people to come to you. People who are using the horns and the smoke signals to communicate, this must have been very, very difficult. That's why we have to appreciate all what we have now. However, in the 80s, the invention of telegraph and telephones helped people to send very complex messages. The invention of telegraphs and telephones helped people to send complex messages. Nowadays, with the coming of emails and mobile phones, people communicate very, very easily. All the images of telegraph and telephones are in our books on page 133. But you can see how things have been changing. We have been moving from very complicated or very, very bad forms of transport and communication, but we are now coming to much easier types of communication. Today, with the emails, we can talk to each other. With mobile phones, we can talk. So finally, we have seen how the forms of transport and communications have been changing. Finally, we have seen how the forms of transport and communication have been changing. We have to ask ourselves, could life be easy if we were still using the ancient forms of transportation and communication? Could life be easy if we were still using the ancient forms of transportation and communication? Then ask yourself, do you believe that in the near future, more complex and efficient forms of transportation and communication will evolve? If you believe so, why? If you don't believe so, why not? Thanks for following, and feel free to ask any